The U.S. Ambassador to India, Sergio Gor, has said that he expects that the interim trade agreement between the two countries will be signed within the next weeks and months. The U.S. Ambassador to India was speaking in the Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi, during a special address to the gathering on advancing partnership in research and innovation under the India-US Trust Initiative. Now, this comes after the US Secretary of State Marco Rubio has wrapped up his 4-day-long visit to India, and a US trade delegation is set to arrive in New Delhi to take forward the trade talks between the two countries. India and the US have been working on an interim trade agreement for over a year now, but there have been several delays in the trade talks due to several sticking points where the two countries are yet to arrive at a consensus. Significantly, there have been concerns in India in the agriculture and dairy sectors, with the farmers especially worried about the opening of the Indian market for the American agri-products. India and the US have been undergoing deterioration of ties, especially after the US President Donald Trump slapped the country with 25% of reciprocal tariffs, along with an additional 25% for the purchase of Russian oil. Subsequently, it was the US President's repeated claims of having brokered peace between India and Pakistan during the May 2025 conflict, which resulted in the relationship deteriorating further. It was in the aftermath of the same that the US Secretary of State Marco Rubio had arrived in India and tried to improve ties between the two countries. In fact, during his visit, Rubio had remarked that about $500 billion will be invested by Indian entities in the US in the coming few years. Now the US ambassador's statement comes in the wake of a trade team arriving from the US next week. Addressing the audience, Sergio Gor said that bilateral trade between the two countries had risen from just 20 billion to over 220 billion in just 2 decades. He further said that while last week a trade team from India had visited Washington to work on the interim trade deal, next week a trade delegation from the US is set to arrive in Delhi to continue those talks. He further said that the trade team that had visited Washington from India had gone there to work on the last 1% of the trade deal, and that he expects that the interim trade agreement would be signed between the two countries in the coming next weeks and months. So clearly, Gor's statement is a bit to instill faith within the Indian community, even as concerns remain about the US's interest and trade exploration in India. Now, it remains to be seen whether the two countries are able to walk the talk and are able to sign the interim trade agreement that they had announced, especially in the backdrop of the two countries announcing in February this year that they had arrived at a framework of the same. We'll keep tracking significant developments in the India-US ties. This is me, Shikha Salari, reporting from New Delhi for India Abroad.